Hello there, my name is Max Cavanis with another episode of College Cooking, where we make wonderful concoctions that will impress your friends or just something to munch on for later. Today we're going to make the absolute staple of munchable foods, aka banana bread, but with, like a twist. This one came up after basically, as we were brainstorming what to do for this series, somebody said, hey, what if we did banana bread, but like different fruits? I personally like it, and at this point in time, I've made the recipe about 4 times, and every single time they at least turn out pretty well. This episode is more or less a guide to any banana-based bread recipes, but you can just substitute whatever fruit I'm using for any other ones. So you could substitute what I'll be using today, strawberries, for kiwis or blueberries or something. So the first thing you'll want to grab is your butter and sugar. You'll want about a half cup of butter and 1.5 cups of sugar. Butter already comes in half a cup varieties, so you can just kind of put it all in. It should be softened. You don't want it hard because otherwise it will stick to everything and it'll just be a pain to try to get. 1.25 cups of sugar. So after you add the 1.25 cup of sugar and the butter, then you're gonna wanna mix it. A whisk works perfectly fine, but just for time, I'm using an electric one. All right, after it is all combined, you're going to want to add the eggs, your fruit of choice, the vanilla, and buttermilk. All right, and for the buttermilk, I'm not using specifically buttermilk, but there are a lot of good substitutions for it. For instance, for every cup of milk, you can add a tablespoon of lemon juice, and that'll essentially give it the correct kind of taste that you're looking for.
Milk.
Since we are only adding half a cup of milk, you'll only want to add a half teaspoon of lemon juice. Or tablespoon, I mean, sorry. And then for the vanilla, you'll only add a teaspoon of it, but vanilla, you can't really go wrong if you go a little bit over. Now, as for your fruit, whatever one you picked, for banana bread normally, they go with 1.5 cups of mashed bananas, which I think it's around 3 to 4 whole bananas. And for basically everything, you'll just kind of abide by the 1.5 cup rule. For strawberries, it really depends. You can either do it into chunks or you can mash them up. For this one, I am going to do chunks, if only because it's easier to count than mashing it up and it won't create a mess. Now that you got all of the wet stuff and the strawberries into your mixture, you're just gonna want to, again, mix it up, make sure that it's mixed pretty well. It's about like a smooth texture once you get done with it. After you're done mixing everything together, then you're going to want to add your baking soda, your flour, your salt, and if you want, you can also add nuts to this recipe and it also works. So for flour, you're gonna want a 2.5 cups of flour, a teaspoon of baking soda, and about a teaspoon of salt. Salt's more or less just for taste, so it doesn't matter as much. Now that we have everything else into the bowl, you're just gonna wanna finally mix that one more time, and yeah. Once you have it in a mixture that looks kind of like this, you're going to want to grab a loaf pan. Personally, I'm going to use a 9x5 inch, but you can also use two 8x3 inches. The only difference is that if you use this one, you'll want to cook it for roughly an hour, 15 minutes. And if you use two 8x3 pans, you'll only cook them for an hour. So then you'll just grease your pan first and then pour in the batter. Now you're going to want to put this in the oven at 350 for an hour and 15 minutes. Sometimes you want to check it a little bit beforehand, but as long as you put a toothpick in and it comes out clean, everything should be fine and you'll be able to enjoy. This is what it looks like once it's done. As you can see, it's a nice brown texture. I did leave it in for maybe a little bit too long, so just make sure to check everything. Thank y'all again for joining me on another episode of College Cooking. I hope y'all enjoyed and have a wonderful evening.